I'm going to share my screen because I think visuals are helpful with storytelling. And then I don't mind at any point along the way, if you want to stop and ask me questions, please do so. I think you're still sharing. Okay. Can everyone see? Okay, perfect. Okay, so I have some letters after my name and it's beginning to look like alphabet soup. So I'm gonna just share what everything is. MHM is my master's in hospitality management. The CMP is the certified meeting professional. TWP is trained wedding professional, and that's through AACWP. And CHIA is certified in hotel industry analytics. If anyone has any questions on what certifications I think are worthwhile, feel free to let me know. We can take a deeper dive. So my original exposure to the industry was at the Aloft Hotel in Austin, Texas. This was one of the first Aloft hotels. It was really an internship for me that grew into a lot more. So I started off as a pre-opening intern, working in the sales and marketing office out of a trailer outside of the hotel while it was being built. And then once we opened the hotel, I was asked to do front desk and night audit, the best experience ever for someone starting out. And then I was quickly promoted to culinary supervisor. So they really threw my feet to the fire and had me ordering all the food for the hotel, which, it's a select service hotel. So, I was just over a team of 4 people and relatively easy, but not for someone of that age necessarily. I worked for the Aloft for about a year and really wanted to further explore the hotel industry. And the same company, W Hotels, was opening. So I was waving my hands in the air, eager to open another hotel and be a part of that experience again, and really to get into the full service luxury segment. I personally felt limited at the Aloft. There were times where I wanted to go above and beyond for guests, and we just didn't have the capability. So I really was able to spread my wings here at W. I started out actually in banquets, and then the living room bar needed help. So I was the only male cocktail server down in the lounge, and then the front desk was needing help. So I wore many hats, and anyone that has a chance to do an opening, definitely do it, because there's so much help that's needed in so many areas, and there tends to be you find out really quickly if people are cut out for the job. So if you're eager and want to try different things, that would be a great way to do it. I wanted to continue my education and ultimately decided that I really wanted to go to the University of Nevada in Las Vegas, UNLV, and get my bachelor's in hotel management. And I did that. Simultaneously, I was working full-time for the Four Seasons Hotel. I actually did another internship and started interning at Four Seasons in the banquets department. And while I was in school, held a couple different jobs there. I was a host in the restaurant, and then was promoted into the sales department. And that was really my introduction to the sales and marketing division of a hotel. And Once I graduated from UNLV, I wanted to get back to my Texas roots and made a leap with Rosewood Hotels and Resorts, and worked for the iconic Rosewood Crescent. It's a beast of a property. It's right in the middle of the city here in Dallas. I got hired on as a conference services manager, and I got hired in a very, I would say, unique role, but I know in Nashville, it's not that unique. I was handling NBA, NHL, and anything entertainment related. So it was a 24/7, 365 type of job. In the summer, when the teams weren't traveling to Dallas and concerts weren't happening in Dallas, I did have an opportunity to travel on the road. So every summer we would go to various road shows just to stay in front of the travel managers for the teams. And what an opportunity. So fast paced. Feel like I never slept. The teams would check in typically at midnight after a game in their hometown. They would travel to Dallas. So anywhere between 11 to 2 a.m., I'd get everyone checked in. It's not only the players, but all the coaches and staff, all the film, all the trainers. So typically the teams would travel in a group of 50 to 60 people. And then in playoffs, all bets are off. It'd be, over 100 people traveling with the team. And entertainment, I got to work with a lot of big names. And Taylor Swift was a fun one, but my favorite was Wendy Williams. And then any Real Housewives fans, I got to interact quite a bit with Erica Jane when she was on tour, which was quite entertaining. Never a dull moment, fun work perks. After being with Hotel Crescent Court and handling the teams, I knew I wanted to further develop my career. I also wanted to try to have some kind of balance. And, for me, I really wanted to get more into corporate events and weddings. And really the biggest reason for the move, though, was the hotel went for sale, changed ownership and management, which happens all the time in the hotel industry. And I had an opportunity to stay on with Rosewood and join the team at Rosewood Mansion on Turtle Creek. It's the flagship hotel for the brand, and handled, this was more of a boutique property. It's 143 rooms and a lot of C-level meetings. And while I was at the mansion, I started doing task force for other properties. So when a new property was opening, I would help train their teams, jump on a conference call, help a new director of catering with getting set up with SOPs. And my favorite experience with task force was helping Rosewood Baha Mar in the Bahamas. And right when they opened, they asked me to go down for a couple weeks. And when I got there, the hotel was already open. And to be quite honest, they didn't have any systems in place. I don't know how they were doing it. So I quickly got them set up with a BEO Bible. Anyone that's working in a hotel or in events, it's kind of like your go-to. It's everything that's happening in that week with all the BEOs in chronological order. And I don't know how they were doing it without that. And got them set up and did a lot of training on Salesforce, which was the sales platform that the brand was using. So at the mansion, I switched markets a couple times. We opened an 8,000 square foot outdoor lawn space that really was uncharted territory for the hotel. We never had an outdoor space, especially to that size. The largest indoor space was only 2,000 square feet. So again, we were doing really high touch, smaller meetings and events. And this space was built to really be able to execute more high budget, larger weddings, galas. And I had the opportunity to open the lawn, and it was a great success. This was my favorite wedding to work on the lawn, and it actually was the first big one. It was a completely blank slate, everything brought in from the outside, unlike a normal hotel venue. This wedding, funny story. I don't know if it's funny. Hopefully you'll find it funny. They had these doves in the wedding, and it was really important to the bride, and it was a part of her invitation suite and a part of the whole design. And her one of her guests, after quite a few drinks, felt really put off by the birds, and she felt like they were not being treated right. Even though we had a handler, they were being professionally managed and looked after. She just didn't think it was right. So she kept taking them away. And I eventually had to get involved with security and just say, look, the bride really wants this. Will you please leave the birds alone? She did leave in a crying scene, but the bride was happy. So we did a number of really impressive over-the-top events, and that is really when I fell in love with the wedding industry. In my younger years of my career, I was always scared away by the horror stories of bridezillas, but honestly, in the years that I've been handling weddings, everyone has been lovely. And as long as you're a professional, you're going to get what you put out, and you're also going to attract the clients that you want if you're putting out that right professional manner. And maybe I've just been very lucky, but anyone, and we'll get to this in Q&A, but I'm curious to know how many of you are interested in weddings and how many of you want to steer completely clear of it. So I did a task force assignment at Baha Mar in the Bahamas, seen here, and they opened a position in October of 2019 to sell destination weddings for the resort. So Baha Mar is actually 3 resorts within a single compound. So back here, you can see is the Grand Hyatt. This is the big resort. The SLS, which is the more party lifestyle boutique hotel. And then Rosewood makes a U-shape horseshoe. All the rooms are facing the ocean, and the Rosewood really is the gem of Baha Mar. And we also had 5 oceanside villas right here, and then a shared casino with over 27 restaurants in this space. What made Rosewood so unique is that you have the ability to go enjoy all of the Baha Mar amenities. So enjoying, the kids' pools at Grand Hyatt, going to the party pool or party beach over SLS, but those same privileges were not extended to SLS or Hyatt guests at Rosewood. So it was a much more exclusive experience. It also was double and triple the rate. Beautiful resort, very unique for the Bahamas, and such a fun opportunity to be able to sell destination weddings. I was based in Dallas and traveled back and forth for my clients. We even had, some of the most unique event spaces to be able to sell. Of course, there was a traditional ballroom. We did weddings on the beach and in the garden, but there was a golf course that we were able to sell, as well as a private island, which was pretty fun. So we would sell that for post-wedding brunch experience days, for welcome parties, and how over the top and exciting is that for your guests to be able to say you are going to the private island. And it was just a 12-minute boat ride from the resort. You actually can see, it's called Long Key, it's the private island. You can see it right here. And fun fact, it was previously owned by Eddie Murphy. So that was an easy sell for the right clients. And of course, loved being on the resort, loved traveling. And then this was my colleague, Shaylin, who handled the West Coast for the resort. And we were doing sales calls in Dallas, Fort Worth, Houston, and Austin, doing a Texas roadshow for our shared customers. And this was taken on March 12th. We had to cut our trip short because our phones were blowing up with, what's happening with COVID? I guess we better get home. I guess we're going to probably have to be stuck at home for a week. So that didn't happen. So I was laid off from the resort in July. So I felt very lucky to, be kept on when so many of my hotel counterparts were being furloughed and let go so early on. But with the resort being closed, all those, they did cuts and had very minimal staff, as did a lot of places. So not to worry, it was a Thursday that I got that call. And then that next day I got a call from my friend with Visit Dallas, who said, "Hey, Jordan, there's this opportunity right now if you're interested to go help with COVID nurse logistics." So at the time this was in July of 2020, there were 10,000 nurses in the state of Texas alone from out of state, helping to support all these rural hospitals that just couldn't take the influx of patients and that didn't have the abilities to create a COVID unit. So he said, the catch is you've got to leave in, the next 24 to 48 hours. There's going to be a training in San Antonio, and you'll essentially be managing the hotel room blocks for the nurses, their transportation. You're really a meeting planner, but emergency response style. So I said, well, I've never been able to just say, yes, I can leave in 24 hours and go do something like this. So it was an eye-opening experience. It's quite lucrative for anyone that loves meetings and events and that is okay with a full-time travel lifestyle, and incredibly rewarding. It was supposed to be just a 4-week gig and ended up going almost 2 months. And in the heat of COVID, I was based in Del Rio, Texas, helping this rural area right on the border. And again, managing the room block for the nurses, was 24-hour concierge. Whatever they needed, I was there for them. And they deserved it because they were working, 12-hour days, 6 days a week. In terms of professional involvement, I am super passionate with WIPA. We started our Dallas chapter just 3 years ago. There is a strong national presence. And if you're interested in weddings, the Engage Summits and WIPA are very intermingled. Some of the best education. What makes WIPA unique is we have 4 programs a year. We always fly in a premier speaker. So last week we flew in Andrea Eppolito. She is celebrity wedding planner out of Las Vegas. And we really strive to have the best education and the most exclusive events for the wedding industry. As soon as I got back from Del Rio on that contract job, I said, okay, I don't know that I'm necessarily ready to get right back into hotels. Let me take a breather and regroup. But I'm not kidding. The day I'm back, I get a call from a good friend of mine who's the owner of the Garden Gate. And it's a legacy event design company, over the top floral. And he's the most well-known and respected florist in the city, with an incredible reputation and Rolodex of clients. It's if I were to work for any florist or event designer, this is definitely the company I would want to be. He calls me and says, "Hey, Jordan, I heard you're back in town. Let's have dinner." I'm like, "I just got back to town. I've been working on, I just want to take a second. Like, can we have, dinner in a few days?" And he said, "No, let's have dinner tonight. And when Junior calls, you do it." He's that personality. And so I said, okay, I'll go. And we go to dinner. He says, "Okay, I have a proposition. Why don't you just come help answer the phones, just do administration work?" I said, okay. He had me there for a week and then pulls me into the office with his accountant and says, "How much do you cost? Because I want you to run the shop." And a little backstory, he built the company with his late wife, who passed away cancer about 2 years ago now. And she managed everything, ran human resources and finance, operations, and he was the creative genius. So that is what I'm doing now. So it's director of operations. We have about 20 full-time employees, looking to grow that right now. And then 30 contract laborers that will help for weddings with teardowns, big setups, that kind of thing. We do flowers for Jerry Jones, all the big names of Dallas and Highland Park. It's a very, very interesting world. And, I would say to all of you, keep an open mind. I didn't study floral design in school. That wasn't necessarily an interest. In fact, I never considered myself an event designer. I really considered myself the event logistics person and the planner and the venue expert, but not the design expert. So I am so grateful for COVID. I'm grateful that I allowed myself to be flexible and to have an open mind and an open heart to do something different and to take a chance, because it has been so rewarding. And, to not work in the corporate atmosphere for the first time has been truly eye-opening as well. Right now, having my hands in a bit of all of it has been overwhelming at times, but has been so rewarding. I learned so much every day, and to be involved with such special moments in an intimate way, dealing with funerals, birthdays, weddings, big blowout events of any kind is a pretty special task. And we really get to make people's great days the best days ever, and we get to make people's hard days just a little bit better. So that is my background in a nutshell. And I really wanted to leave us plenty of time for Q&A.
All right, the floor is open. I know we have a lot of people interested in wedding planning, so here's a great opportunity. Ask away, guys.
Who is interested in weddings? Heather, I see one hand. Jordan.
Yes,
Zoe.
I have a question.
Yeah.
I wanted to learn a little bit more about the trained wedding professional certification that you were talking about. If that was like the only certification that you did and what you got out of it, and if it was online or in person, just kind of that experience and what I could try to pursue as far as certifications after I get my bachelor's.
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially as you enter the wedding industry, it is a way to show clients, if you're going to start out on your own and launch a wedding planning company, or even working for another wedding planner, it's a way to show clients credibility in the industry. It's one more thing that you can show. It's something you can add to your business card, to your website. For me, I got it at a time where I was just starting out in the wedding side. So I learned a lot. I never thought about things from an officiant's perspective, hadn't necessarily thought about things from a photographer's perspective. So this certification does take a deeper dive into every segment, into every vendor category. So instead of, shadowing those vendors, this is a great way to get that exposure to it and see things through their lens. I think something that will make you a successful wedding planner or successful in the wedding segment is being able to understand every vendor's point of view. Why are the florists sitting down in the ballroom, eating their sandwiches in the corner over there? Well, it's because they have a long day of setup and they need to have a quick break over there. Just getting everyone's understanding everyone and how we all work together. It is offered online and it's offered in person, and it's offered through AACWP. So I would definitely look into it. And Heather, we can have a sidebar and I can make some introductions to you and the team over at AACWP. It's certainly a well-respected. And then they have another certification program as well. So I have the TWP, but you can be a certified wedding professional, CWP, if you're able to show that you've planned and executed a wedding, including managing a client's budget. You have to show proof for at least 2 weddings before you're qualified for that. And then there's some other things to be able to qualify for that. So both of those would be good to look into. And
Okay, thank you.
Do you have any experience right now in the industry, Heather?
So far, I have worked at one wedding venue this past summer. It's local. It's called the White Dove Barn, and I did like a small internship there. So I mostly did busing and dishwashing and cleaning, and then some days I would go in and shadow the other wedding planners. So all of the wedding planners that they have are exclusive to that venue, which is really nice for that one. I've thought about wanting to be specifically at one venue and not own my own business, but I'm definitely open to options. So that's the experience I have right now. And then I'm looking at other wedding venues to do my full-time internship next spring. Well, this spring, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I think, I'm biased, but maybe also look into hotels. Hotels offer really great training. And you may have an opportunity to work with some incredible planners. Some of the best wedding planners that I know do have, hotel backgrounds and venue backgrounds. Understanding that side of it is one of the most important pieces. So I think you're off to a great start.
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyone interested in the hotel track?
I am, but I did want to ask you, you said you started off at Aloft Hotels. How did that look for your first year, entering that business? Because I guess I have a lot of questions on like, I know you have to kind of work your way up to positions and stuff, but how long maybe did you stay at the front desk or those types of positions?
Yeah, it was very accelerated. And again, it goes back to my first 2 hotels that I worked at were opening properties. And there's a lot of turnover. So if you are hungry to learn and grow, that is where you can do it. It is, there's no other experience like it. And where you are, there are lots of new hotels opening in the area. I'm just, maybe this is presumptuous. Are a lot of you wanting to go and work in Nashville once you finish the program, or? So that's such a booming market with so many new hotels coming on that you just get an opportunity for accelerated growth. So to answer your question, at the Aloft, for instance, I interned over the summer. That was 3 months. I came on to do the front desk. I did night audit and front desk for 6 months and then was quickly promoted. So things were happening really fast. And it's not necessarily normal, but that's the difference between like a limited service property versus the full service luxury property. Luxury, it takes a lot longer to move up. So, for instance, then at Four Seasons, I did a 3-month internship. Then I was a host in the restaurant for a year and a half. That was a great, stable job. Also in Las Vegas, any union position pays really well. So like, that was great. That was great for me able to manage, full-time work, school load. And then I worked in the sales office as an assistant for 6 months before moving into my first catering manager position. And then I was a conference services manager for 2 years at the Crescent. I was a conference services manager for 2 years at the Mansion. I was a wedding sales manager at the Mansion for a year. I then was a wedding sales manager at Rosewood Baja Mar for 9 months until pandemic. So, to me, really 2 years is when you start to conquer a position. But in some of those entry level roles, if you can accelerate to the next step, and you feel like you're ready to take on the next step, then go for it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Have you already started working in a hotel, or you just know that that's where you want to be?
So I originally got into this program because I actually wanted to work at a vineyard. And I obviously started leaning towards hotels because we learn a lot about it.
Yeah.
I don't work at a hotel right now, but I have been thinking about applying for Arrington Vineyard. But I don't know if I should do that because I feel like I should go ahead and just get like hotel experience, but it's kind of the same thing, I would think. But yeah, so no, I don't work for a hotel right now. I'm working on it.
Yeah. Well, maybe do an internship and see if you like it. A paid one.
Yeah, and you'll notice this is something consistent we're seeing with all the guest speakers, is that once you conquer a job, once you get comfortable with that job, it is time to move on. That you don't stay in something that's comfortable and just keep doing the same thing. If you want to keep moving up and keep growing, you take those opportunities and chances. And you'll also notice, I know Jordan didn't emphasize this, but I know this about Jordan. He said yes to things that maybe weren't in his wheelhouse, things that he hadn't really considered before, things that weren't necessarily his number one interest. And he grew that into not only a great position, but a network for the next position and for making contacts throughout the industry. So can you talk a little bit more about maybe some of the advantages of being part of those? I know you talked about WIPA, but what really is an advantage maybe as a student to start joining those organizations?
Yeah. I was involved as a student, and that's what allowed me to grow my network. And for me, I see so many of my friends and former colleagues that have had a hard time staying employed over COVID. For me, it was a day and then another day. It was like, I can't tell you how many times in a week I get a call with someone trying to recruit me. It's the power of networking. It's the power of staying out there. And that's the biggest advantage. I mean, staying gainfully employed and always having the next opportunity right at your fingertips. And it's those friendships, it's staying in touch. And as a student, you not only get a discounted membership rate, which is great, but I love when students want to get involved. I'm going to bring you right in. I'm going to have you at the registration desk, have you meeting everyone. If I hear of an opportunity, I'm like, here's a student. They seem so sharp and so savvy. Let's give them a chance. I just saw them working at my WIPA event. Like, I think you should hire them as a sales coordinator. I mean, it's the power of just being seen. It's being out there. It's giving a little bit of your time and you're learning at the same time. So I would pick at least one organization right away, get yourself there. It's awkward at first, your first time going, maybe bring a friend from your program, but if you can't recruit a friend with you, just go in. I promise someone will take care of you and it'll be worth it. It will be worth it.
So do you have any other advice for students just starting out, whether they've started working or they're about to graduate? Just some advice you would give them for their career path and what they can do?
Yeah. Keep that hunger. I know that all of you're in this program for a reason. You want to continue to learn and grow. Don't ever stop that. Don't ever get complacent. Keep pushing yourself. Keep thinking about, what do I want to do in a year? What am I going to do to get there? I need to be staying active. I need to be pushing myself in my current job. I have a sales goal, but I need to exceed it. So just my advice is to just keep staying hungry, and keep thinking about what you want to do next.
Yeah, and I think to go along with that, the kind of the things you've been pointing out is don't be afraid of the work. So when Jordan's talking about accelerated learning and an opening of a hotel, nothing is off limits. You're doing anything and everything. You know, when you're a catering manager, F&B isn't his world. That wasn't like, I want to be in food and beverage. He's never been there. And yet they said, hey, why don't you take over catering? And Jordan said, yes, I will do it. And it's hard work, but through F&B, through going through the hotel side, this is one of the big things about events is I think, especially in weddings, we think, oh, we want to have the venue, we want to be a wedding planner, we want to do those things. Sometimes to get that experience, you can go through other venues or other avenues you hadn't thought about, whether that's catering, whether that's hotel side, any of those different elements. And Jordan is living proof of that. And then when things went south, he took another opportunity that wasn't in his wheelhouse and he made new networks and new connections and just kept growing, kept going, pursuing more education, the Master's of Hospitality Management. That in itself, the return, I would suggest, and maybe Jordan can correct me, the return on investment in that is not direct dollar to dollar, but through having those extra credentials, he looks better to employers as he's getting into these director positions. because now he's showing not only do I have the experience, but I have the education to back that up. And the networking connections he's made through being at both UNLV and U of H, which are two very large hospitality programs. He has that network too. So Jordan, correct me if I'm wrong in any of that.
You're not wrong at all. You know, also when you are at a networking event or when you're applying for a job, it doubles. I love that I've gone to 2 top hotel schools or hospitality schools because whether it's a recruiter from U of H or from UNLV, their eyes light up. So the chances of having that connection and being able to make that spark is doubled. So the more that you can diversify yourself, and it's funny, even now, you know, I'm always interviewing as a director of ops now, which I never thought I would be the operations guy, but here we are. I get excited about candidates when I see that they have a master's degree, that seeing their development, and you know, whether they're applying for a floral designer or a sales manager with us, I'm like, okay, I know that they've taken the time, they're dedicated to their career, they're going to be dedicated to us. I really want to take a deeper dive into this person. Let me see what they're about. And without that, what on their resume is going to stick out. So, you know, they all kind of start to look the same. So just be thinking about what can make your background look unique. What makes your elevator pitch sound different than everyone else's? That way it's not just noise.
And it doesn't have to be immediate that you go for pursued education or certification or all these other things. Jordan, how long was it between your undergrad and your master's?
5 years.
Exactly. So this is not like, oh my God, I just graduated. I'm so ready to be done with school. Oh, I can't even think about a master's. Great. Don't think about a master's. Go get that job experience. Go start accelerating where you're really investing in the job. And then when you're ready, that's when you start to say, hey, you know, I need that next edge to make me more valuable, to make me more sellable, to open up our new opportunities. I'm hitting that stagnation in my job. That's when you go pursue that master's degree. It doesn't have to be a just constant next step, next step, next step. So that's when Jordan's talking about thinking a year from now, what do I want to do? What do I want to accomplish? And if you start to see yourself not getting those opportunities, join new organizations, do new networking, start getting new certifications, more education, whatever that is to give you that edge over your competition. And that's kind of what Jordan has been doing all along. Like, okay, what's the next step? What's the next thing to make me better, to make me grow? And that's kind of the mentality that you need.
And if you feel like you are needing something that isn't out there, don't be afraid to start it. I started a flower club because I felt like I wasn't able to bounce ideas off of any counterparts. There wasn't anything in my area. So I called a few of my florist friends now that I'm, you know, in a completely different segment and said, okay, I need to be able to bounce ideas off of you. I need to know what you all are doing. Let's get together once a month and let's try to grow our network. So you can start smaller like that too. And those types of relationships too are gonna be beneficial to you.
So what other questions do we have? What questions do you guys have for Jordan?
So you worked down in the Bahamas. So like, what was like the difference that you saw working down out of the US and working in the US?
Island time. It was really hard to get things done sometimes. And just the lack of immediate resources. We couldn't just order something on Amazon for a guest. We'd have to figure out a creative way to get it there. And just the speed that things get done. It's just different. There's more hurdles, but so worth it. I mean, to be in such a beautiful place. And in that role, I was based in the US and would go back and forth. So when I would be on property, I'd be on property typically for like 2 weeks, to be able to get in as many site inspections as possible. So that was really the best of both worlds. It was for anyone that loves to travel and is okay for being away from home for, a week at a time. That can be great. There was domestic travel for clients, going around and doing events, trying to get the word out about the new resort, and then the travel actually on site, meeting with customers that had already booked a wedding. Yeah, that was a fun gig. That was a fun gig.
We have time for another question. Do we have one last question? Grace, that was a great one, by the way.
Mhm.
How about Jordan? So you work around a lot of events. What other Jordan? Jordan, our student Jordan, do you have any questions for our speaker, Jordan?
I guess I know you said you had advice for people in general, starting out. So I just started out working with florals and event coordinating. So starting there, what advice do you have for somebody that's wanting to be in that industry?
Yeah. And what are you doing exactly in floral and events right now?
So I'm doing floral design and then coordinating weddings.
Nice. My advice to you would be to get ready for the long hours that are ahead. I think it is very common in the beginning of that path to do a lot of volume, and this isn't everyone's path, but this is my recommendation. Work smarter and not harder, and start working towards getting to that luxury client. That way you can take on less. That way you don't have to do a wedding every single weekend, or doing so much volume. So be thinking about more of a long-term plan. How can you continue to elevate yourself? How can you get more of an ideal client? And that takes experience, that takes hard work, that takes building a portfolio and branding yourself. Do you want to work for yourself, or do you want to work for someone else? Both are great. I mean,
I haven't gotten that far yet. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, right now you're working at a venue.
No, I work for a wedding planner and florist.
Awesome. I think that is such a great way to learn the industry. You're really learning two of the biggest parts, the planning and the design. So you're getting to learn the logistics and the timing of it all, and the pretty side of it. And I would say most people like to be in one lane or the other. They like to do planning, or they like to do the design. At least in the Dallas market, there are very few people that do planning and design, because it is two such big jobs. How long have you been doing this?
I started in May.
May. Nice.
Yeah, not very long.
No. No, you're 5 months in. Keep going. Keep a positive attitude. Don't be afraid to work the long nights. Don't be afraid to be the first one there. Right now, you have more stamina. The older you get, the harder that becomes. So put in those long hours now while it's easier, because the older you get, the less that you're going to want to do that. So put in the work, and it will be worth it. And you will see that your growth is quicker when you do that.
Thank you.
All right, great. Jordan, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. I know you have a very busy schedule. So thanks so much to you. And I will see most of you guys later this afternoon.
Bye. Thanks, everyone. Feel free to contact me. I'm happy to answer any questions on the side.
All right, thank you so much.
Yeah.